Hi, this is Michael Adams for CEORoaster, and yet today I have the pleasure to talk to Brian Robertson. He's President and CEO of Mexican Gold Corp, trading on the TSX Venture as MEX. And the reason why I was asking Brian to join me today and give me some more insight is that Mexican Gold just 2 days ago came up with the initial mineral resource estimate for the Las Minas project in Mexico, and I trust this is a really, really important milestone for the company. And so, yeah, I'm looking forward for Brian to give us some more insight. So, Brian, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. As I said in my introduction, yeah, you just came up with your initial mineral resource estimate for the Las Minas project. Exciting times, right?
Yes, no, absolutely, Michael. And thank you very much for asking me to join today. Certainly some very exciting times for Mexican Gold and our shareholders. This is our initial 43101 resource for the Las Minas project, and certainly a significant milestone for the company.
Yeah, pretty good. But before we go into the details of the resource estimate, maybe tell us a little bit about your personal background.
I'm a mining engineer, and I also have a graduate diploma in business administration. So I have a background both on the engineering side as well as on the financial side. I started in the mining industry in Timmins, Ontario, working for Dome Mines Limited, which later became Placer Dome Inc. I worked for them for a number of years, operating mines in Canada, as well as on mine development in South Africa. So I have a long career in the mining industry on the operations side, and for the last 15 years I've been working on the exploration side. And because of that, because of my mining background and my financial background, I bring a somewhat different perspective to carrying out exploration.
Okay. Yeah, and to my understanding, you have developed Mexican Gold Corp from a kind of exploration stage company more into the development phase, right?
When I became involved with Mexican Gold, it was initially source exploration. We had a property in Mexico. Subsequent to that, we took on this property, Las Minas, and we've progressed it through the exploration stage, through the diamond drilling stage, and now into the pre-feasibility or into the 43101 stage.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Let's just move forward in the presentation. So that's page 3. Just whatever you want us to know about this.
Well, I think this is a very important statement, because what we're saying here is, before we become involved in an exploration project, because of my mining background and operations background, I want to be confident that that property has all the criteria that can move forward to become an operating mine. And all too often, explorationists will become involved in a property because they see mineralization, they continue drilling and spending money, but the reality is it will never become an operating mine. So this is a background that I bring to Mexican Gold. That's a background and the criteria I use for assessing the Las Minas property. I wanted to see the right things there to ensure that it actually had that potential to become an operating mine. Now, we have progressed that property through the drilling stage to the resource stage, the initial resource estimate, and we've just put that out. As I mentioned, there's 719,000 gold equivalent ounces there. In the inferred category, with an additional 303,000 in the measured and indicated category, at a very good grade, and certainly at grades that would be economical in an operating scenario.
Okay, yeah, let's call that. It's 1 million ounces gold equivalent. Yeah, it's easier for me. Yeah, in all different categories.
Yes, and if you add those two together, it's certainly just slightly over 1 million gold equivalent ounces.
Right. Yeah. So, and as you said, it's a fairly good grade. Is this going to be in your plans? Is this going to be underground or open pit or both?
Las Minas property, and keeping in mind that this resource is for 2 of the 8 zones that we know at Las Minas. This initial examination includes both open pit and an underground scenario.
Okay. And what are the? Let me just. Do you want to move forward in the presentation, or?
Certainly.
Okay, we should talk about the management team in more detail. But what are you going to do with the other 6 zones? Because you mentioned these right now, the 43-101 is only resulting from 2 of the 8 zones, right?
Correct. For the other zones, we've carried out limited drilling on some of them. On some of them, we've carried out just field exploration, mapping, sampling, etc. For those zones that we've drilled with limited drilling, we have some very good results. And further on in the presentation, I'll talk about those results as well as our plans to move forward to drill those zones as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah, then maybe just give us a little bit of background for the rest of the management team.
Yeah, we have a very experienced board and management team. And we have strength on the financial side as well as the exploration side, as well as on the operating side. Ali Zamani is our chairman, former portfolio manager with Goldman Sachs, a lot of experience on the financial side, particularly in mining and materials company. John Anderson, a lot of experience on the financial side, number of exchanges he's worked with, raising capital. He's CEO of Triumph Gold, and he's raised over $35 million for Triumph. Gord Glenn is a geologist, CEO of Minova Gold, a lot of working on the geology side as well as with financial firms. Sean Drake, a lot of experience on the corporate secretary side, and Gavin Nelson just recently joined us as CFO.
Okay, we'll just move forward in the presentation.
Capital structure, I think this is a very interesting capital structure. Shares outstanding, a small number of shares at 34.2 million. We have a number of warrants out. Interestingly, they're priced at 25 cents. And if we triggered those warrants, it would bring in approximately 7 million to the company. Options, 3.5 million. So fully diluted, we're at 62 million. Still a low number of shares out. Key shareholders, Palisade Global, 18.25%, and management has a lot of skin in the game, 7.48%. That means that a large portion, probably about 25% of the shares outstanding, are in very strong hands.
Okay, yeah, that gives you a market cap of around 12 million, right?
Currently approximately 12 million.
Yeah. Okay.
So I mentioned Las Minas property. This property is actually very similar to Torex's Media Luna deposit. That's in the Guerrero Belt. If I look at core from Media Luna and we place them side by side with core from Las Minas, they look exactly the same. Very similar geology. This is a skarn deposit. Very similar style of mineralization.
Okay.
Now, Las Minas, as I mentioned, is a skarn deposit. This is a district-scale geological setting. The underlying intrusive here is approximately 10 kilometers in diameter. So it's a large intrusive that came in. There are 7 historic mining areas at Las Minas itself, another one over at another concession that we hold. And what we see here in this type of geological setting is there's certainly the potential for a porphyry system, much more deep-seated. We see epithermal style mineralization at Pueblo Nuevo. Pueblo Nuevo has a number of high-grade mines, and I'll describe that in more detail in the presentation. And when we look at Las Minas, when we look at these zones, we've done this resource estimate on 2 zones, El Dorado, Juan, Bran, and Santa Cruz. We believe that there's another parallel zone at Cinco Sonoras, Las Minas, which is very similar and may actually be larger than what we see at El Dorado, Juan, Bran. And the Palinapec was a recent discovery, pretty typical of geology at Las Minas. We drilled there, we hit, we've got some good numbers there. And we've carried out a MEG survey, geophysical surveys at this site. That delivered a number of large-scale anomalies. These are anomalies that we still have to drill. And if you look at this area historically, and this is what I like about an area, is when you look for a mine where mining has been carried out before. There were fairly small-scale mines here between 1870 and 1910, and they were shipping very high-grade ore from Las Minas. It was somewhere in the range of 20 to 40 grams per ton gold and up to 15% copper.
Okay. Let me ask you a question. So, in my understanding, this Las Minas is kind of a whole district, yeah, which has historic production and everything. Are you the only player there, or are there other companies that also have a piece of the Las Minas district?
This is certainly a district, and if you look at this geology map, this is 12 kilometers by 10 kilometers, and the area that we're working in is right here, and that is actually in the core area of the Las Minas property. But interestingly enough, there you can see a number of historical mines in this area here, scattered throughout the area. So there are other companies that do surround us, but we have the core position at Las Minas.
Okay. Any plans to kind of do some more acquisition around there?
We're always looking at that, and we've, that's always a priority for us. We have currently been focused on Las Minas itself, but obviously there's potential outside of that.
Okay. Good.
So this is just a district scale geological map. The green is the overlying limestone, now marble. Underneath it, you have the skarn zone itself, and much further out is in this whole area, you have the underlying intrusive. So we're working in this area. Obviously, it's district scale, covers a huge area, and what I'm very interested in is the fact that there are so many small-scale mines here. These were small-scale, high-grade. Las Minas itself, you can see Juan Bran here, Shenguero, Juan Bran we drilled. That's part of our resource estimate. Small-scale mines are initially, and now we have a resource estimate of somewhere over 1 million gold equivalent ounces. So that indicates the potential here.
Are you going to talk a little bit about the infrastructure situation?
Yes. Infrastructure is excellent at Las Minas. We're about 40 kilometers from major highway that runs from Mexico City to the port of Veracruz, and we also have a hydroelectric plant on site. We also have water supply on site. It's a very safe area. We've never had any safety issues at Las Minas, so the infrastructure is excellent.
And the labor situation? Is there skilled labor around?
There's a small village there of around 500 people, and the people there welcome us because of the work that we're carrying out, as well as I have a policy of employing only local people if they have the skill sets, and we've actually trained up people from Las Minas to become diamond drillers.
Oh, okay, great.
So as I mentioned, in the core area of Las Minas, there are 7 mineralized zones. 2 of them we've worked on more extensively, El Dorado, Juan Bran, and Santa Cruz. These are the 2 zones that are part of the 43-101 resource. They're still open on strike. They're still open down dip, and we have more work to do there. In addition to those two zones, we have Cinco Sonoras, this area, that's where the mining initially started at Las Minas. We have Las Manias in this area. We believe that those two may well be connected. Los Boquillas is here. This is a site of numerous old workings. Chenguero is here. Chenguero is the site of a historical underground mine that was mined for 200 meters vertically, sitting 400 meters above the skarn zone. So it's, and we've drilled there and we've intersected mineralization below. And recently we drilled at Nopal-Napec. So we have a number of mineralized areas still to explore, and this is in the core of the Las Minas project. We also have Pueblo Nuevo, which is about 2 kilometers to the north. This is a site of several high-grade epithermal-type vein systems.
Okay.
As I said, we just completed a Maiden 43-101 resource. I think there are two very important numbers in here. We modeled this resource as an open pit and underground scenario. In the open pit, we have measured and indicated of 286,000 and the inferred of 605,000 gold equivalent ounces. So there's somewhere around 10 point something million tons there, and the grades here are very interesting. You see 1.87 grams here in measured and indicated, and 2 grams in inferred. Now that is a very high grade, very high number for an open pit operation. Most open pit operations you'll see in the 1 gram range. This is 2 gram range. And just to give a comparison, Torex Gold's El Limon mine, also located in Mexico, they operate an open pit there. This is one of the richest open pits in Mexico, and it grades 2.65. You can go on their website, you can see that information. So here we have these grades coming in at 2 grams, so a very high grade for an open pit. I've looked at other open pits. I operated actually an open pit mine in British Columbia, the Kness mine. I put it into production. I operated it. The grade there was 0.3 grams per ton gold and 0.3% copper. Now that was a very large operation, 50,000 ton a day. If you look at other operations in Mexico, you see grades around 0.7, 1 gram in that range. So that gives you an idea of how high these grades actually are. The underground grade, we're looking at 114,000 gold equivalent ounces in the inferred, another 18,000 in measured and indicated. But the grade here is around 3 grams per ton. And that's a very good underground grade for mining in Mexico, simply because you have lower mining costs and your revenue is in US dollars.
Right.
This is just a look at El Dorado 1 Bran zone as it was modeled. The interesting part is it's very close to surface. It actually outcrops right on surface. So this is a very large zone. It's not fully drilled off, still open down dip, still open on strike. But this outline that we've drilled is 420 meters wide, 600 meters, over 600 meters extension down dip, and thickness for anywhere from 6 to 38 meters. Now this can be mined. We've modeled it as an open pit because it comes through the surface. It also could be mined as a higher grade underground scenario.
Okay.
This is high grade Santa Cruz zone. Much higher grades in the Santa Cruz zone. It's in the side of the steep terrain here. Could be mined either as underground or open pit. And I've just moved to the next slide. This is going back to the El Dorado zone. And when you look at some of the numbers here, they're very impressive. You've got 3.59 grams per ton gold equivalent over 14 meters. including 4.14 over 12 meters. You've got higher grade material here, 6.1 grams over 4 meters, 4.22 grams over 14 meters, and 4.57 over 21 meters. So these are very nice intervals for an underground scenario. And as I said, it comes through the surface, so could also be mined as pit. This is a high-grade Santa Cruz zone, which I showed you a 3D model of earlier. Very high-grade material here, Santa Cruz 03, drill hole, 10.06 grams gold equivalent over 16 meters, 24 grams equivalent over 9.6 meters, 9.73 over 6 meters. Here's one at 43.9 over gold equivalent over 4 meters. Or 19.8 over 10 meters. So some very high-grade lenses in the Santa Cruz zone.
Okay.
One of the things we did recently was some drilling over at Cinco Sonoras. You can see the El Dorado Juan Bran zone here with all the drilling that we carried out. You can see the Santa Cruz zone here sitting somewhat higher than El Dorado Juan Bran, and we believe that these are most likely connected. We have some drill indications that that could well be the case. But interestingly, we drilled here at Cinco Sonoras. The geology here is very similar to what you see at El Dorado Juan Bran, and we believe that the mineralizing fluids were controlled by this fault structure. You have a major fault here. You have another, this is a splay fault, this is a major fault on this side, and we think that this actually was all one zone at one time. So we drilled here, we've got some very good numbers, 15 grams over 2 meters here, some other holes in here, some nice numbers in it. Certainly there's a possibility that this could be connected, because we see old workings on both sides of this valley, and we see old workings over here. The other thing is that this zone itself actually is most likely a parallel zone to this and could be in similar size to what we see here. This is Nopal-Nepec, one of the 7 zones at Las Minas core area. This is sitting opposite of the Santa Cruz zone, and this is the El Dorado Juan Bran zone that's sitting below it. If you remember back in that previous slide, I showed you El Dorado Juan Bran and Santa Cruz zone being above it. This may well be connected, but these holes are collared. This is about 150 meters above the mineralization here. So we drilled there, we got some very good numbers, 15 grams over 7 meters. You can see the intervals here. And actually, that hole ended in mineralization. We stopped the drilling because we're using man-portable drills, and that was the limit. We now have to come down in the valley and drill deeper, but we think that this zone is, we believe, is certainly part of this high-grade Santa Cruz zone.
Okay.
I mentioned high-grade mines at Pueblo Nuevo. This is a historic mining area. Several small-scale mines here, but very high-grade. You have La Maqueta mine. This mine we know has 22 levels on it. Some extensive mining done here, some nice numbers, 17.76 gold equivalent. Narrower widths, but some very nice grades, 29.38 gold equivalent. Tamiagua, when we went there, we only knew of one vein system. When we did our field work, we found a parallel vein system with extensive mining on it. An interesting thing here is all these veins strike in the same direction. Okay. And we believe that there may well be a parallel system of veins here. There's a shear zone through this area that's up to 250 meters wide. So in this situation that we're looking at now, what we know is we have a number of parallel high-grade veins, but if there are a number of them in this area, then this actually could become a bulk mining scenario. This is an area we want to drill. We're going back into this area with our next exploration program, which will start shortly. And we'll do more field work here, more sampling, more trenching. We want to sort out if we have a number of parallel vein systems here and then lay on a drilling program.
Okay.
I mentioned that we've done mag surveys at the site. This covers the main Pepe concession. And what we found, probably no surprise because we have a fair amount of magnetite here. The mag survey itself actually picked off all these old mines, but more importantly, it picked off a number of extension areas. This is the Cinco Sonoras extension area. This is the El Dorado Juan Bran zone extension area. Picked off Nopal and Peck here. That's why we drilled there. We had a nice mag anomaly. We drilled, we hit. This is Santa Cruz over here. Now, this extension area we drilled, this is part of our resource number, that million gold equivalent ounces. Again, we have a big extension area sitting over here. And Santa Cruz is an interesting one because we drilled the lower part here, but above it is another extension area identified by the mag survey. And when we drilled at Santa Cruz, we saw fresh boulders that came from above that are mineralized. Now in our exploration program upcoming, we're going to go there, do more field work, more mapping, more sampling, more trenching, but we believe that it certainly could be an upward extension of this mineralization that we've drilled.
Okay.
Because I'm a mining engineer, I'm always looking at these things in terms of a mining potential. And what we have here is, this is El Dorado Juan Bran, and it's flat lying. You can see it outcrops on surface. This is rather unusual, but we have a concrete road right over top of the ore body. You can see the old workings here, the mineralization. But this is ideal for an open pit scenario or for an underground scenario. So we have both options there. This is El Dorado Juan Bran. These lines are contour lines, so this is a valley. If you wanted to mine this as an underground scenario, you have very cheap access, 135 meters, you're into the ore zone. This is the first big lobe. You would take that out, continue on, take this out. Now I mentioned that Santa Cruz extension zone, and that's this area in here. If that stands up, similar grades to this, then you may want to mine that whole thing as an open pit. So that's a different mining scenario, more ounces, probably lower mining costs, perhaps better economics. But both of those options are available. So what have we done? We've completed 21,000 meters of drilling here, 16,700 at our El Dorado Juan Bran, another 4,400 at. These are some of these extension areas: Las Meninas, Shenguero, Los Boquillas, Nopal and Peck. We've completed preliminary metallurgical test work. I just covered off the ground mag and test IP surveys, and we've carried out field exploration at this highly prospective Pueblo Nuevo concession. Okay. So what are the results from all of this? Well, as I mentioned, we have this Maiden 43101 resource. If you total those, it comes out to about 1 million gold equivalent ounces. Some very nice grades in there, and certainly very nice grades in terms of both open pit and underground. The metallurgical work was excellent. It came out at 89% recovery for gold, 95% for copper, and 84% for silver. And this is flotation, no cyanidation required. We actually have pictures of an old flotation mill that operated in Las Minas in the 1930s. Now we've identified the potential for a repeat of El Dorado Juan Bran over at Cinco Sonoras, Las Meninas. We've carried out those, we have high-grade sampling results, which I mentioned, at Pueblo Nuevo. We discovered a new vein there. I think we're going to discover even more veins when we go into Pueblo Nuevo. So some very positive results from drilling at Las Meninas. Las Meninas was an underground mine. I was underground there. There's very extensive mineralization there, heavy sulfides, some very interesting stuff there. We drilled Los Boquillas, some good results coming out of Los Boquillas. Chenguero, as I mentioned, we sampled there, we drilled there. It was mined for 200 meters. There's 400 meters still unmined sitting there because of the long access. And the other interesting thing is that we see a very extensive system at Chenguero. So we want to spend a lot more time looking at that. We've had a new discovery at Nopal-Nepec. We drilled there. I described some of those results. That's another area that certainly needs more work. So our plan for 2017 is to drill El Dorado and Juan Bran to expand that resource. As I mentioned, it's not closed off. It's still open for expansion. We will be drilling at Cinco Sonoras and Las Meninas. We're lining up a company to carry out a ground magnetic survey as well as a time domain EM survey. And the purpose of that is to identify more clearly targets that are at Cinco Sonoras, Las Meninas before we drill. Pueblo Nuevo has been very prospective. We've had some excellent results coming out of Pueblo Nuevo. We want to go back and explore there for high-grade vein systems, particularly parallel vein systems. Santa Cruz, I mentioned the upward extension of that zone that's been identified by the MAG survey, as well as some of the boulders that came from above it. And Chenguero, our geologists are very excited about Chenguero. We think that there could be certainly a significant system at Chenguero.
Okay. Quick question. Do you have any idea how many meters you would like to drill on these projects? And can you pay for the drilling and the other activities until the end of the year from the cash? You did a raise earlier on. I think one was done last year and one was done earlier on this year. So are you funded for the drilling activities?
To deal with your first question, our next drill program will be around 3,000 meters of drilling. This would be at El Dorado, Juan Bran, and over at Cinco Sonoras and Las Meninas, and perhaps a few holes at Chenguero. In terms of funding, we currently have approximately $800,000 in the Treasury that will finance that drill program. Drilling in Mexico is certainly cheaper than elsewhere. And what we will be doing is, with results from that drill program, which we expect to expand that resource, then we'll look at additional financing to carry out further drilling.
Yeah. And as you said, yeah, right now you still have a pretty tight share structure. The market cap is just around 12 million. So to me, there's a lot of upside. Yeah, I can see from what you described, even if I'm not a geo, yeah, I can see that there is at least potential for way more ounces in the ground, yeah, that you need to prove up by drilling. So it's a story that I feel very attractive for an investor who comes in at these levels, yeah, but that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And I think, you have to look at what we've done to date, the amount of drilling that we've done, and you have to look at the geology in that area. Now, we've gone in, we've drilled somewhere around 21,000 meters of core, and we come up with 1 million ounces in 2 zones. And we know that there are 8 zones there. So, and our geologists have looked at it in terms of what is the mineral potential in that area. Certainly, we expect that we will expand the zones we've drilled, and we will see more results, more resources coming out from the other zones from the drilling programs.
Okay. Oh, good. No, I think that was, again, thank you very much for taking the time. Yeah, I know that you're pretty busy, yeah, because you just came up with a 43-101, and so I guess you get a lot of calls, yeah, that with investors that want to get more educated. So thanks for taking the time to talk to me and educate me. Again, I feel it's, at least for my readers and my viewers, subscribers, it's a company that you should definitely put on your watch list. Yeah, it's MEX on the TSX Venture. The website, and don't get fooled, the website is mexicangold.ca for Canada. It's not the .com one, right? So it's mexicangold.ca.
That's correct.
And I will link that around the description text of the video. Yeah, and I think again I'm see a lot of upside in the company. If you can prove up the more ounces, yeah, if you're with your experience with the quality of the management and the board that you explained. So I feel that this is a real deal. And my final question would be, are you going to bring it into production, or are you going to develop it to a specific stage and then sell it to a bigger player?
Well, but I've worked on both sides of that street, on the operating production side as well as on the exploration side. And what I can tell you is that it requires a different skill set as an operator versus an explorer. And I think for Mexican Gold shareholders, the best option and where we can create the most value is to find, to discover, to bring ounces to an operating company and have them and buy us out and put the mine into production.
Okay, so thank you very much. That was very, very good. I will continue to take a look at the company, yeah, monitor the developments, and on occasion, if you would be available for another video update, that would be my pleasure. Thank you very much, Brian.
Thank you very much, Michael. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye now.